was shot, no one thought that feminism would enter the Middle East. No one thought that women in Pakistan would stand up and demand for change. In Pakistan 2 months ago, the very first Women's March nationwide took place because of the discourses happening by women saying that we demand change, we are sick of the status quo, we are not going to do what men tell us to do. We are seeing change happening when women recognize that they are allowed to go up against the patriarchy. I think these changes have a much greater impact than anything that came from side government. We are very proud to oppose this motion. Two clash points. One, in which paradigm is social change more realistically possible? And secondly, and the girls' individual internalization of gender roles and how individuals are impacted. First point, on social change. I think we get a very strange contextualization from side government. They said that gradual change is necessary, the status quo is not ready enough, we need milestones. 3 responses to that. 1, I think if you even buy that argument, then this motion has very, very little impact. In the context in which women are so oppressed to the extent that whatever they do, they get shot, I don't think there is a necessity to take this motion of actively teaching girls to not do anything, right? It's a very strange stance to hold. We think even in that kind of context, it's more important to introduce systematic changes, teaching women that it is time to stand up. It is okay to stand up. And that is the only way, in their kind of context, systematic change is actually achieved. Secondly, their argument is that right now the situation for women is very bad, and that's why doing something radical is going to come with backlash. If not now, then when is change going to happen? I think in the status quo, it is the best time to change because international feminism is creating narratives spreading to places like the Middle East. People have access to information, people can mobilize like they did in Pakistan when women say, I'm going to stand up, and they go towards other women within the nation. I think it is possible, it is a feasible time to change. I don't know when they're going to come up with the best time because there's always going to be some sort of backlash. But certainly, I think even if you take their argument that some women might face like life threats by taking this motion, or like not taking this motion and standing up against men, I think comparatively speaking, we need to recognize that women in the status quo in these nations are already getting life threats, right? People are dying in the status quo. Girls are dying because they don't have access to abortion. Girls are dying because they're killed in the name of honor killing because they don't have rights. In this kind of context, I don't think them saying that some activists might be killed is a great enough impact to ignore the fact that hundreds of girls are dying every day because they don't have access to education, because they don't have access to things like hospitals or economic powers so that they can access other resources like clean water. That is the context that we're talking about, and therefore we think comparatively speaking, when we show you that we can have systematic change in which women can have more power, women can demand that things like rape victims should not be stoned, it is going to save more lives comparatively than their side of the house. This is very important because literally the only impact that they gave was women is going to be harmed. Women are already harmed in the status quo. We need to make change right now. Secondly, they talked about backlash. We don't think that this is actually, the impact of this is great enough in comparison to all the impact that we bring to you. Firstly, we tell you that I think when in a society in which the education system is actively telling girls to shut up and just never fight back against men because it might be dangerous, the society as a whole is probably going to be a bit more conservative. Men might feel even more superior because the social norm is that women have to act feminine to keep men happy and never anger men. I think in that kind of context, it is going to be extremely difficult for women to stand up, even in comparison to the status quo. I think when women are expected to stay quiet in cases like sexual harassment or even rape or domestic violence and so on, I think the backlash against people who actually do stand up on their side of the house is much greater, right? I think when there is no narrative of women being able to stand up, men's reaction to women actually doing that is probably going to be more harsh. Women won't probably get any support from other women as well. I think those women will never be changed in their side of the house. Now let's look at how we dealt with the issue of social change. We gave you clear mechanisms right? We think we're the only ones who goes against the cultural norms and the history that they talked about. We need to intervene, and I think that is a clear impact that wins over any impact of theirs. Secondly, girls' individual internalization of gender roles. I think this is a very important point that they didn't adequately engage with. Firstly, we gave you examples of things like women actually participating in stoning of raped victims. The reason why this happens is because the cultural narratives or the historical narratives is now internalized and women feel that they cannot stand up. This is the thing that we want to change. We think their role is telling victims to stay victims. In our role, we are empowering victims to actually stand up against the oppressors. I think even in an internal level and an individual level, like things like dignity is much more stronger in our side of the house. I think when girls do want education, they should be able to demand it. I think telling them to shut up goes against any sort of empowerment. I think in the long term, girls will be more confident, they will be able to know that they have rights, and I think from an individual level, society can change. At the end of the day, the comparative is this. In their side of the house, there will be no Malalas, there will be no social discourse happening. In our side of the house, we want to protect girls like Malala by incentivizing girls and telling them that we need more people to be like her. We need more people to stand up and change the narrative. I think even if you buy some short-term impacts of like activists being killed, those things are already happening in the status quo. In the long term, our paradigm has much bigger impacts and more mechanism for change. Very proud to oppose.